Yeah, so that's how that came about.
Okay. Was it the goal to have, I guess what they would say, the clean image y'all had, or did that
Kid and
just happen
Play
that
didn't have a clean image. Kid and Play, especially not in, behind the scenes. What a lot of people don't realize was you had something called FFC relations then. You couldn't do music videos the way y'all know music videos now. So if someone's coming to you and saying, hey, we ready to pay you this much money, you're going to do this, you're going to travel or whatever, but these are the guidelines. What are you, stupid? You know what I'm saying? So we cursed like the rest of them. We got it, girls, like the rest of them. When we went on tour with everybody we've been on tour with, it was about who was getting the women and all of that. So like a Heavy D, like a Salt and Pepper and all of them before it, you had FCC guidelines. You couldn't do none of the stuff that's done on radio and television today. But if that's what people wanted to, if that's what they wanted to say or think of us, I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to go, no, I don't want that because I want to be hard or you'll need to know how I'm really like. No, it's like, it's a job. It's like if you have a regular job, you got to go by the employer's guidelines. You got to be in at 9, you get off at 5. This is what you got to wear. This is what you got to say. This is how you got to carry yourself. Now, when you go home, are you wearing that uniform? Are you acting like that? No, you're doing what you're doing for a paycheck. So, but, I get it though. But, I don't want to take on that whole clean thing because we weren't angels. I mean, even when you look at the movie House Party and stuff, that ain't no PG movie.
No, not at all.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So, I get it though. I'm not disputing it, but let's be kind of realistic about it,
Yes. Okay. So where did the famous kick step move start from? That everybody loved, everybody was doing.
Kid and I, like everyone else back then, loved to party, loved to dance. Dances was made up, things was done, organically, impromptu. You do it by accident. And it's like, hey, that's dope. Do it again and you get a reaction. So really it just came out of the synergy of a lot of the dancers that we love, hung out with on the regular. The group in particular was a group called Nonstop with hi-hat, hi-hat, Swatch, and Little Bit. There's 3 young ladies. They're in that music video getting funky. And if there's a move they do in it that's kind of similar to the kick step, but it's not the same, but it involves the kind of swinging of the feet and the legs, which was very clever. So when it was time for us to finally get a break and do our first tour, which was called the Slammin' 88 tour, and the co-headliners was Salt and Pepper and Keith Sweat, and like one of the best tours ever. I mean, it was a huge tour with a lot of people on it. And when the gentleman who was also responsible, the promoter for that, he was also the promoter for the historical first rap concert or tour, which was called Fresh Fest. So he had this tour, Salt and Pepper being our sisters and our friends, they, pretty much took us on this tour. So we were kind of like the opening act, but we were having music videos done then. And we very much wanted to have our dancers featured in our music videos to come on tour with us, but they weren't giving us that kind of money to afford it. So now Kid and I are forced knowing that anything we're going to do in front of people, they're going to expect what they saw from the music videos. So that's why we incorporated dancing in our shows and in our music videos and all of that. So that's how that came about.
Right. So how did, like I said, y'all, everybody loved y'all. How did y'all wind up getting into a beef with Vanilla Ice and Luke?
Oh, I wasn't in no beef with them. That wasn't even a consideration. It's like, I myself personally, maybe Kid would feel a certain way about it, but my mentality coming from the streets, if you want to put it that way, how I was brought up and stuff, it's like,
It's not real beef.
oh, it's not real beef. I mean, if it was real beef, I could see if it went on to more records and all that, but we friends with these people, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I never looked at it like that. If anything, it was another opportunity to seize attention or let's whatever, but there was no thought. I mean, you know, I don't even really remember it with Vanilla Ice really, but and with Luke, you know, that was a thing, but that was a misunderstanding. With Luke, we did a special, or we did an interview on BET, and Salt and Pepper was feeling a certain kind of way about their choices, and they voiced it. Kid and I just happened to be there in the shot. I think it was Video Soul or something like that, where we were there. So it was like guilt by association. We never said anything bad about them, but because of that. So when Luke made his joint, he got into all of us, but I was a hoe. Yeah. So when he said, you know, play ass hoe or whatever, I'm like, yeah, I am. You know what I'm saying? So whatever. Maybe if I was called something else, maybe, but yeah, like, okay, yeah, you know. So it was not a thing. And you know, though, like I said, we, you know, I didn't never really get with Luke or be with Luke after that. I think Kid hung out with him a couple of times at some strip clubs. We've been touring with Vanilla Ice on this I Love the 90s tour. And as far as whoever else you mentioned, no, it was all good.
Oh yeah, that was it. So I heard you did not want to do movies. Like you no,
I didn't want to do House Party.
Okay, you didn't want to, so you ain't mind doing movies, but you ain't. So is it true that
it wasn't about not wanting to do movies? You got to think about where I came from. I never even imagine, I guess you would call this under low self-esteem. I would never even imagine it never entered my mind that I would ever do a movie, much less be in a movie. That was just outside of the realm of any possibilities. So when we were approached for a House Party, I'm a business-minded person. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at the history and the track record of hip hop movies, and they didn't do well. Wild Style, cult film, independent film, definitely a cult classic, favorite. Any hip hop historian needs to have that movie in their collection, Wild Style. But then you had Beach Street. That was just disappointing to real hip hop heads. We weren't crazy about the casting, little disappointed. We were excited because Harry Belafonte was the executive producer of it. So this was a real Hollywood cat doing it. Little disappointing, but good. Looking back at it now, I really enjoyed the film. Then you had Crush Groove, a little closer. I think people were disappointed with the casting in that as well, as far as the lead and all of that. All good. But the one that was really disappointing, and I'm like, if they can't make a hit movie, who the heck is Kid and Play to think they can make a hit movie? And that was Run DMC when they did Tougher Than Leather. Mm-hmm. So here's Kid and Play making money like we've never seen before, experiencing things like we've never seen before. Why ruin it? Do a movie and it's whack, that could hurt. And then the money we're making, the money they were offering us for that wasn't making up a lot for what we were making touring. We got hit records, we good. So I thought. But the close tripod, or the tripod between me, Herbie, and Kid was, we had a rule called majority rules, and they outvoted me. And that's one thing in life that I'm so glad that I was outvoted on.
Yeah,
I had no idea it was going to be, but that was my reason. It wasn't like I didn't want to do movies. I didn't want to do that movie at that time, and I didn't even think I could ever do a movie, period. Low self-esteem on my part.
Did they want Will Smith and Jazzy Jeff for the film at first, or
no? The directors and the producer, Reggie Hudlin and Warrington Hudlin, before the movie even was brought to New Line Cinema, they would roll up on us. This is when I was saying no to it. They would roll up to us at industry parties. Like what was famous back then, and I missed those days, some of it, was you had a lot of independent labels. And when it came time for like the 4th of July, but especially around the holidays, the Christmas, winter holidays, they would have these industry parties. And man, those parties were the bomb. But they would be there and they would kept coming to us saying, we got this idea for a movie. And they, whenever we run into them, they would give us an update on what was going on. And I wouldn't pay it any mind. I'm like, where the girls at? So finally, when they got a deal with New Line Cinema, they came to New Line Cinema saying, we want Kid and Play to do this movie. New Line Cinema didn't know Kid and Play. They weren't on the street level. They're like whoever made it crossover. Yeah. So they were just trying to be smart businessmen and saying, hedge their bet. If we're going to move forward with this kind of film, why don't we stack the chips so it's more favorable? So if Will Smith and Jeff, our dudes, are in it, they feel as though it's a better bet on the movie. So when Reggie and Warrington introduced us to New Line Cinema, we did a cold read and a lot of stuff they would shout out. It was like this office. It wasn't nothing like no movie studio or nothing. And they asked us to do all these different scenes they would shout out and we had to act it out. Kid and I know I did, felt as though we were horrible. We were whack, say goodbye, ain't gonna be no movie. But what happened was, it was around lunchtime. Or either it was lunchtime for the company, but at that time school was letting out around the city. One of the VIPs, nice guy, said, listen, I'll walk you guys down. Thanks for coming. When he walked us down, all the schools were letting out. All the kids knew of us because of our music videos and stuff. And they oh, what's the word for it? All of that, you know, and the guy, he saw this and he saw the way these kids were, and it was like the Beatles or the Jackson 5, whatever you want to call it. He went back upstairs to tell them, no, we got to get these guys. These guys are the ones. So that's how it happened. But it wasn't like some people try to make it.